Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Moving Forward series. Sorry to start a little bit late. We've resolved our technical issues and we're all here now. So thank you so much for coming. I'm JJ McMurtry, Dean of the Liberal Arts and Professional Studies faculty at York University. And thank you so much for joining us today. A special welcome to our guest panelists, and thank you also to our hosts, Michelle Johnson. You'll be hearing from them shortly. I'd now like to acknowledge the land that we are on. As this meeting is virtual, and because we're not all actually gathered in the same space, York's land acknowledgement might not represent the territory that you are currently on. And I would ask, if this is the case, that each of you take the responsibility to acknowledge the traditional territory you are on and the current treaty holders. I myself am situated in the area known as Takaranto, and gratefully acknowledge that I am here and that I'm on the same territory as York University. As a member of the York University community, I recognize that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. York acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as Takaranto has been caretaken by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat. It is now home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis communities. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. So welcome again to our guests and to everybody joining us on Zoom to the next chapter in the Moving Forward series. During this panel, we will hear from graduates of the Faculty of Liberal Arts and Professional Studies who are currently involved in various initiatives addressing anti-Black racism. If at any time you need help with this experience or have questions for the panelists about the content, please feel free to click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and our team is here and ready to help you. So that's all from me now. I'd like to hand things over to Associate Dean Michelle Johnson, who will now introduce our guests. Thanks so much, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Dean McMurtry, and welcome everyone to this continuing series, Moving Forward. As Dean McMurtry said, today we'll be looking at how York alumni are advancing initiatives in Black communities. And I am so pleased today to be welcoming 5 of our graduates of this wonderful faculty. I'm going to ask each of our guests to introduce themselves. Then we will go to some questions and then open to the floor for questions. I start with our first panelist, Ahmed Ishmael, our graduate of BCom in 2013. He's now Vice President at Wellington Management. Ahmed?
Hi, Michelle, and to all my fellow alum and everyone at York University. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's great to see everyone and glad that we're all celebrating Black History Month together. And Michelle, to lead with the first question.
No, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you very much. So yes, as mentioned, I went to York University. I graduated in 2012. I joined in 2008, so a pretty interesting period to start school just from a markets perspective. But I really enjoyed my time at York. I focused at the time that I had joined on my studies, studying finance. I had gotten involved in school at the National Finance Students Association, which sits in Atkinson, which is now LA&PS. And as I was coming into this session, one of the things I was reflecting on is just how grateful we are to attend such a diverse school like York University and to now be involved in these initiatives. So after school, I quickly jumped into the world of finance, got a great opportunity, thankfully through networking with diverse leaders at RBC Global Asset Management. And that then led to a later opportunity at Burgundy Asset Management, and now where I'm currently at, which is Wellington Management here in Toronto. So all that to say, thank you again for this opportunity and look forward to the discussion.
Okay, thank you so much, Ahmed. Our second panelist is Danielle Doughty. She graduated with a BA in Econ in 2003, and she is now an advisor for strategic policy and stakeholder relations at Toronto Police Services Board. Danielle.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Michelle, for hosting us. So as was mentioned, my name is Danielle Doughty, and I graduated from York in 2003. After York with a degree in economics. After leaving York, I did a very quick stint at Procter & Gamble, where I worked in consumer logistics and finance, and then I made the switch to the Toronto Police Service, where I worked for 13 years before heading over to the other side of the house, which is the Police Services Board. And the board is responsible for overseeing the service and providing civilian oversight and governance. So thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. And our third panelist, Joan Jenkinson, who graduated from our faculty, would have had a different name at the time, in a BA in sociology. She's now executive director at Black Screen Office. Joan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's so great to be among my esteemed alumni from York University. My experience at York was fantastic. I was in the mass communications program, which was interdisciplinary and the best education you could possibly have. I have been the executive director of Women in Film and Television. From there, I was the VP in charge of independent production at Vision TV for many years, where I had the opportunity of commissioning programs from a diverse group of people, including a number of initiatives for Black professionals in the industry who have gone on to be among the senior members in the film and television industry today. I've been a producer and working on dramatic TV production, and now I'm the executive director of the Black Screen Office. And thanks again for inviting me.
Thanks so much, Joan. Our fourth panelist is Marlon Greene, who graduated with a BCom, and we're seeing a little gathering of BCom here. And he is now a community general manager at CIBC.
Well, happy Black History Month. Thank you, Dean McMurtry, and thank you, Michelle. Really excited about the opportunity to connect and share with my colleagues. As Michelle mentioned, I am a leader in CIBC's personal and business banking strategic business unit, serving as a community general manager. Prior to that, I served as director of business effectiveness in the bank's commercial banking and wealth management strategic business unit. Before that, I spent a number of years working in the wholesale banking arm of another large Canadian financial institution. And throughout this time in my career, I've spent a lot of time being a community leader, serving as president of Canadian Association of Urban Financial Professionals and sitting on a number of boards such as the Toronto Public Library Foundation Board, among others. Of course, I'm a proud alum of York University and always excited about engaging. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marlon. And our fifth panelist is Nadine Spencer, who graduated from York with a BA in political science. She is now the CEO at BrandEQ Group. Welcome, Nadine.
Hi, thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you, everyone. It's really great to be here. Dean McMurtry, thank you very much for having us. And to my esteemed alumni group, this is wonderful to see everybody. I'm Nadine Spencer. I'm the president of the Black Business and Professional Association. I'm a volunteer president, and the BBPA is a 38-year-old organization that works to address equity and create economic opportunity for Black business owners. We also give scholarships to Black students as well. At BrandEQ Agency, I lead, the agency's voice in terms of representing not just a mainstream audience, but I work to amplify Black voices in the space of our agency. And it's interesting, when I was at York University, I've always sort of aspired for better and best. And at York University, part of one of the experiences that I remember is going into the faculty lounge, and all the students had their meals at the student area, but not me. I one day just opened the door to the faculty lounge, and nobody was there to ask me to say that I shouldn't be there. And so that's where I had my lunches and studied, and was very inspired actually by being in that environment. And as we talk about moving forward, the work that I do with Black entrepreneurs and in mentorship of Black youth, it is about opening that door, because sometimes you really can sit at that table and be inspired. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so with all these accomplishments of these incredible graduates, we're going to ask them a number of questions about the initiatives that they're leading in the Black community. This is incredible that with all that you have to do, you're still taking time to be involved. So since your studies at York University, how did and why did each of you become involved in supporting and leading initiatives in the Black community? And I'm going to start by asking Danielle. Why don't you lead us off, Danielle? Thank you so much.
Sure. I would say, the question says since York University, but I would say that it started a lot at York University. I had been very much involved in community work and volunteerism all throughout high school, and when I got to university, York is just a different space. It's a very political space, and I felt that I was able to really come into myself and understand my passion around organizing. So one of the groups that I was a part of was the York University Black Students Alliance. I served as the office manager there for 4 years, but I was also involved. I was elected to the York Federation of Students. I was the president of the Economic Students Association, and one of the founding members of York is You, which was kind of like the inclusion. The association I was looking at how to make students feel included within the student body. Mm-hmm. And so for me, the work that I did at York, the kind of organizing work outside of studying, was really around how you build community, how you allow folks to feel included and be a part of the school system. And on top of that, but really when seeing injustices within York, how we challenge that, how we had boycotts, we did protests on a number of issues, particularly the Black Students Alliance around anti-Black racism within the campus. And that work has just continued. So I left York, but that work of inclusion, of challenging anti-Black racism where it presents itself, of making sure that people understand how systems work and working to remove barriers to access to opportunities, that's my passion, and that's carried right through every job that I've done.
Oh, thank you so much, Danielle. Can I ask Marlon to pick up on that same question? Since York, why and how have you become involved?
Well, I would say, my experience has been similar to Danielle's. I mean, I wasn't as bold as Nadine to have the audacity to sit in the faculty lounge. I found my voice at York University. It was, again, through a lot of the engagement and some of the student clubs, very active at the Caribbean Student Association at the time. I wrote for the university newspaper, Excalibur, and it really did give me a voice. One day I had one of my high school teachers come to the school to come talk to me about some of the issues that he was seeing in York region among Black students, saying that there was tremendous amount of struggle and that he was looking to engage some role models. And so I was a part of the team to recruit the first set of role models for a program called the Milliken African Caribbean Upliftment Program. And really all we did was go out and talk to students, share our stories. For me, it was near and dear to my heart because everything I know that these students were experiencing, I experienced as well. You know, I clawed and scrapped and clawed and scraped to get into to school. You know, York gave me that opportunity, and in so doing, gave me a voice to go back out in the community, and it's been that way ever since.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marlon. And Joan.
My experience has been, again, like throughout my life, you know, as a Black person, you live your life in your skin. More recently, with the Black Lives Matter movement and the murder of George Floyd and several others, and of course, many over the years, there were statements that were coming out of the screen-based industries, film, television, digital media, and commitments were being made about what would be done and acknowledging anti-Black racism. But so I got together with a group of senior industry professionals, film, television industry professionals, who came together to say, well, what will our statement be? What will our position be in this movement? And we wanted to be sure that everyone was clear that anti-Black racism exists in our industry, and that we collectively, as now the veterans in this business, have been through the trenches and, you know, have clawed and scraped and got our way to where we are now. But when we look back, there's nobody following us. You know, we got in through some diversity initiatives several years ago, but then the door closed. And now it's open again. And we wanted to make sure that it stayed open. So we wrote a letter and approached the Minister of Canadian Heritage to be on record about what our concerns were in our industry, and got 2 subsequent meetings with him, which then led, after many different iterations and initiatives, to the Black Screen Office. And, you know, our presence is a reminder to the industry that we're here to stay and that we're going to hold the industry accountable for the promises that they're making now.
Thank you so much, Joan. Ahmed?
Thank you. And kind of like Marlon and Danielle, my, I guess, commitment to the Black community very much started at York University as well. And I was working and volunteering at the National Finance Students Association at the time. And in the hallways was Richard Pinnock, who belonged to LA&PS at the time. And he's now the head of diversity at Walmart Canada. But he had encouraged me at the time to get involved in the National Black MBA Association, which was their first Toronto chapter. So it was really that, and through networking with others like Dennis Mitchell, like Marlon actually, and others that got me involved. And then fast forward to 2020, the Black Opportunity Fund was launched, and there was an opportunity for me to contribute in any way I thought I could. And now I sit on the Black Opportunity Fund alongside Marlon and Dennis and many others, and we're working directly with the community, and happy to talk about that a little later.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. And Nadine.
So, you know, I remember, you know, many years ago when I was at York, it was during a Black History Month event. They had this woman, this dynamic Black woman who spoke. And for the first time, I recognized in that moment that I too could have a voice like her to speak about race and racism and what it means to be Black and a woman and a Black woman, all 3 very different things with their own challenges. But what resonated with me in that hallway when she spoke was her confidence. And you know, many years ago, I was in the United States at a conference. There was 2,600 women in that room, very powerful organization, and only 3 of them looked like me. And I was presenting a project that I was the only Black woman that ever presented such a project to that group. And I thought to myself, there are women that look like me that needs to be mentored and encouraged to be in a space like this, because the wealth of knowledge in that space was incredible. It was a wealth of opportunity. We were not there, you know, and so I was nominated for BBPA Harry Jerome Awards, which is right over here, and I got the BBPA Harry Jerome Awards for business, excellence in business. And as a Black woman, to achieve this, I thought, this is great. What am I going to do for my community? And so when they were looking for a new president, I said I would serve. I would serve in any capacity. I said, if you want me to come and sweep the front steps of the BBPA to advance our community, I will do that. And I became the president. And to Marlon's point, it's the voice, you know, the voice that our community needs is an important one. And the work that I've done in my career that led me in the space of serving our community, it's an important one. It's being in spaces that I shouldn't have been in. And I saw, you know, if you see it, you can be it. And I thought, who are the people, the women, the Black women in my space that is missing? How do I work to bring them forward? And, you know, when I think about how do I want to lead as a leader in the Black community, it's with confidence, it's with courage, and it's with action and authenticity. And that's what drives me, the work that I do at the BBPA each and every day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. And I'm going to shift gears a little bit to talk about an initiative that each of you would like to highlight today. And in talking about that initiative, could you tell us a bit about how the initiative came into being? Joan started us off really well, so I'm going to go back to you, Joan, in a minute. How the initiative came into being, the goals and the mandates of that initiative. Joan started off telling us about the Black Screen Office. Joan, could you pick up the story, and the rest of us will get ready with our stories as well.
Well, the Black Screen Office in and of itself is an initiative, something that never really existed as a voice for Black people in the film and television business. But one thing that's important to us is that we know, you know, our history. We know the history of oppression and anti-racism. What's important to us now is where we go from here. We want our message to be a message of hope and change. And so one of the initiatives, our first initiatives that we're doing may seem removed, but it's actually very central to what we all do as storytellers, which is to find our audience. And right now there is no measurement when it comes to TV ratings data that actually includes information based on race. So in essence, we are invisible in that world. So our first initiative is to seek out that audience, to do a national survey, a benchmark survey that's never been done before, that will identify you know, where Black people are, who they are, what do they watch, what do they want to watch, how do they consume media, so that the net effect will be that more Black programming will get made and seen, and advertisers will want to advertise, and broadcasters will know how to market it, so that we can actually have a voice and that our stories can be told.
Thank you so much. Danielle, could you tell us about the initiative you'd like to highlight today?
I know I don't have long, and I'm going to try and highlight two really, really briefly. Professionally, one of something I'm very proud of is the Youth and Policing Initiative, which came through the Toronto Police. So I was hired, this was my introduction into the Toronto Police Service. It was to kind of manage, develop, architect this youth employment program. And the backstory to the program was in 2005, it was the year of the gun, and the government was looking to make investments into communities around providing opportunities for young people. And And so I was brought in. And for me, it was more than just a job. It was a real opportunity to invest in communities. It was important to me that the focus was on Black youth because of the young people that were affected by gun violence, predominantly Black youth, and to be really clear on that point. And so we developed a program that really looked at how do we, set up these young folks that come in to work with us for the summer so that they have a better footing when they leave. And I'm so glad that Ahmed brought up Richard Pinnock, because he's also a mentor of mine. And I had been through the Inroads program. And so much of what I learned from Inroads in terms of how do you teach professional development to young people, I was able to then bring that into the Toronto Police for the young folks in there, and also really focus on not just professional but also their personal development. So, financial planning and time management skills, and Nadine would like this, brand management, personal brand management, like stuff that most teenagers don't have access to. But then, once they've left the program, they come back and they tell us, like, how many doors have been opened to them just from the training that we were able to provide. So that's one. And the second one, I do a lot of volunteer work with the Jamaican Canadian Association, and a passion of mine is politics. And we've developed So You Think You Can Run, and really it's an election readiness campaign. And so every election cycle, we do training for candidates, and the goal of that is to get more of Black people involved and engaged, ready to be competitive in an election, and not just compete, but to be able to win, and not just them, but also their team. And so this year, what we've launched is a Brampton edition, because Brampton has a very high population of the Black community. And so we're looking really specifically to see how we can get more people elected to all three levels of government. We're looking at elections within the next year and a half at all three levels. And so how do we get there, and how do we get our folks ready?
Wow, thank you for that, Danielle. That's an important initiative. It's one thing to talk about stuff, but to put things in place to make change is really what we want to talk about. So Ahmed, could you tell us about the initiative that you would like to highlight?
Absolutely. And maybe just to Nadine's point on seeing is believing, I think that's so powerful, and a large part of what the Black Opportunity Fund is really trying to do. So the Black Opportunity Fund was founded in June of 2020, but the idea was conceived in November the prior year. And essentially what it's trying to do is support the existing Black-led nonprofit organizations across Canada and businesses. And by funding the existing great work that many of the Black-led nonprofit organizations are doing across Canada and businesses, we think there'll be a trickle-down effect in supporting the broader Black communities across the country. So that's the mandate. And to get there, the Opportunity Fund is looking to partner with large corporate employers from a financial contribution perspective, as well as government as well too. So it's new in our journey. We have issued our 100-day report after doing a series of engagement with existing nonprofit organizations and businesses to better understand the needs of the community. And we're hopeful that later this year, we can make some exciting announcements around us receiving funding and moving forward with our long-term mission.
Okay, thank you so much, Ahmed. And now I'd like to ask Nadine, who I've been here calling Nadine. So Nadine, could you tell us about the initiative that you would like to highlight?
Sure, and that's okay, Michelle. There's so many. I fall into Danielle's line of thought, but I'm going to share two quick ones. When COVID-19 started, we recognized the BBPA launched a 24-hour hotline for businesses that needed help. And as the president, I answered those phone calls. And I tell you, I got those phone calls 3 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock at night, Sunday, like all at various hours. And I wanted to answer the phone calls myself, because I wanted to hear the voices and the challenges of what Black entrepreneurs were facing in the midst of this pandemic. And then a survey came out from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business Association. And so we did a survey mirroring that for Black-owned businesses versus mainstream businesses. And what we found was a huge gap. And one of the statistics I'll share is that 90% of the Black-owned businesses surveyed did not have enough resources to carry them through any kind of crisis, much less a pandemic that would have seen them shut down. Whereas the mainstream businesses had at least 6 months cash reserves. They had access to capital, they had access to credit lines and all of those things. So that was missing for the Black business owners that we surveyed. And when we started going door to door and asking the businesses, well, are you going to apply for any of the stimuluses that was available by the federal government? They weren't able to because their paperwork wasn't done, the taxes weren't filed. Because when you're a business owner and you're doing 20 hours a day or 18 hours a day, it's hard to get all those things done. So we launched BATES, the Business Advisory Implementation and Development Services, which really takes Black business owners and hold their hands at any stage of their business to guide them through the process. Getting registered, having a business plan, having a financial plan, having a business coach, having a mentor, and all those things that will get them ready and sustainable for their business. And then, with that, we were working with the federal government on the Black Entrepreneurship Program, and that's the funding for Black entrepreneurs across the country that deals with an ecosystem, which is to look at data and also resources in terms of training for Black entrepreneurs. And then also looking at how do we strengthen these organizations so when they go into the financial institutions, they are ready for loans to build, grow, and scale up their businesses. So that's one of the key things that we're very, very proud about. And then we also launched our Boss Women Entrepreneurship Training Program, because we did a study with Ryerson Diversity Institute, and it showed that in the state of women entrepreneurs, the state of Black women entrepreneurs has been severely impacted by COVID disproportionately. And what does that mean? It means that Black women require more resources, all of those things to build, grow, and sustain their business. So we have an amazing program of 100 women that come on every single week. We launched a national Rise Up pitch competition across the country. We had 700 Black women applied for the program. We have 300 that's going forward to the next round. And I say to them that you've made it because all 300 of them, they now have a business plan, they have a financial plan, all those resources that will build a strong foundation for the advancement and growth of their business. So those are the things that I'm really, really thrilled about.
Okay, thank you so much, Nadine. And Marlon, could you tell us about the initiative you would like to highlight?
Yes, thank you. And I'm loving all of these. This is just fantastic. Wonderful work. Now, back in 2012, I was approached by 3 Toronto District School Board educators. And they shared with me at that time that 6 of every 10 Black boys in the 13 at-risk communities across the GTA were not finishing high school, and that they were attending more funerals of their past students than weddings. The principals surmised that the already dire socioeconomic backgrounds of these boys, many of whom come from broken and single-parent homes, was exacerbated by the absence of positive role models with whom these boys could identify. And so those educators had something in mind. They wanted to bring people together. They wanted to bring specifically professional Black men together to help the boys rethink the color of success. And so I actually helped find the funding they needed to put on a conference called Young Men of Color Stand-Up Conference. Now, we ran that for several years, very successful. It was amazing. I think it was a real point in Toronto to see so many professional Black men in one space. It got to a point where we realized that there was something here. A handful of us got together and started talking about what we could do to actually accelerate what we landed on. And the 100 Strong Foundation was born out of all of this. And so the 100 Strong Foundation seeks to change the narrative as it concerns Black youth, redefining Black excellence without excuses. And so some of the programming that is put on by this organization involves Strong Academy, which is a summer camp where the boys, they're offered fundamental classroom lessons, so in class in the mornings, and then experiential learning, such as field trips in the afternoons to places such as, a courtroom, the newsroom at CBC, the executive office of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, and things of that nature. Many of the boys come into the program not thinking that they could finish high school. As a matter of fact, 84% on average come in not thinking that they could finish high school. But many of them leave thinking about what their graduate program will be. Imagine that, just after one summer. We've partnered with private schools who are taking some of our boys. We have some wonderful success stories coming out of it. And we continue to see that change, just because these boys now see people that look like themselves in the large, tall buildings in downtown Toronto. I think what's critical in what we do, and most critical, is that the boys need to see that we are no different than them, right? The suit I wear, suit and tie that I wear, is just a part of the language of business. It says nothing about the food I eat, the music I listen to, or how I dress at home. Once they kind of get that, that the suit itself doesn't change who I am inside, and that it won't change them if they were putting on a suit, that's usually when we get them. So we're doing some amazing work. And I think there's so many connections. I talk about what Danielle's doing, Nadine's doing, Ahmed. I mean, I think there's so many interconnections to the work that we do. I'm really excited about the future of our community.
Thank you, Marlon. And thank you so much for that round of responses. We'll be opening up the floor to audience questions soon. So get your questions ready, put them in the Q&A button, click on the button below, put your questions there. And we'll just move on to our final question for the panelists. This is the how will you solve the problems of the world question, which is, how do you envision the future of the Black communities? Tell us a little bit about your hopes, the changes you'd like to see, and perhaps how these hopes may be realized. That's a massive question. So if you want to just pull out one thing from that, I'd be so grateful. Starting with Ahmed.
The grand question, right? It's
Yes.
not so easy to answer, but I think one or two things that I can highlight. One is that we want to continue the momentum that has been built. And essentially we do that by all of our respective organizations continuing to move forward, but then to Marlon's point, coming together and making sure that we're collaborating and making sure that everyone's moving in the right direction. The other piece I'd highlight is improved outcomes for our constituents. So looking across the Black community at the nonprofit organizations we hope that we can provide support to, and looking at it over many years and saying, okay, are we seeing improved outcomes in, just as Marlon mentioned, in the initiative that he's involved in. And if we're doing that and we keep making collective effort, then I think we'll all be successful and improve the current condition of the Black communities across Canada.
Thank you, Ahmed. Danielle?
What I would like to see, what I hope the future will be, is that we see the work that we're all doing be translated to government investments. A lot of us are doing this on our own time. It's volunteer work. It's not sustainable for individuals. And what we're doing is we're filling in the gaps that have been left by the system. And so within all of our respective places within the system, I hope that we're able to translate that work over to where it really belongs and where the investments can be made and made sustainably. And then that then leads to the communities being able to move from surviving, which is where we are right now, into thriving. And what is that? What do healthy, whole communities look like, where the barriers are removed, where the education, addresses the whole child, where the justice system is is truly a justice system. How do we, what does that look like, right? And that's the work, really, that's the work that all of us are tackling in some way of, how do we kind of chip at this mountain? And instead of us working and teaching our young people to scale the mountain, I'm hoping that the mountain can be scaled down.
Thank you, Danielle. Wow. Joan.
I like to tear down the mountain.
Yes. Yes.
Start a new narrative. I guess my passion is about storytelling, and it's always been about helping the storytellers bring their ideas to life. And what I want to see is Black stories going global, that we will be heard and seen around the world. Our programming, our stories will be seen and heard, just as we've had success in the music industry. And our Canadian talent are now like at the top of charts globally. I think we can do that in terms of telling our stories. And just like we say Black Lives Matter, I believe firmly that Black stories matter, and they deserve to be told. And I think when we have a narrative for ourselves, when we can show excellence in how we make it, we can build careers for people who tell it. I think that there is only the possibility of hope and change in that narrative.
Thank you so much, Joan. Marlon?
Yes, I mean, I'd like to pick up on all of the above, first of all, but I'd like to pick up on what Joan said. And, if I were to think of one single point, I would say that, I strongly feel that until we take a genuine interest in the lived experience of others, whether troubled, marred by disadvantage, or emboldened by privilege, we'll never truly understand each other. And storytelling, I think, is a great way of getting there. People really need to be interested in our stories. We need to be interested in the stories of others. I think these are the monumental steps that we need to take to bring about that sustainable change that Danielle talked about.
Thank you, Marlon. And Nadine?
Ditto to all of that. There's a legal expression that I like. It says, res ispa loquitur, the thing speaks for itself. And I would love to, when you look at corporate boards where they say we have a diversity policy, that board looks like their policy, that the thing really does speak for itself, and that we can walk the talk in terms of what we say. And, my ACE is, action, having more people take action as we build awareness around what needs to happen for all of us. Collaboration, when I hear everyone talk here about what's happening, I think collaboration is so key as not just the Black community, we talk about allies and champions. We all need to collaborate and come together. And finally, empathy. I have two daughters and a gorgeous granddaughter behind me here. And what I want for them, I want for your daughters and your sons, what I want for the business members in our organization, I want for everybody. And so I think if we can come to a place where we look at empathy, it'll be a great place, because the good I want for me is the same good I want for you, Michelle, Joan, Ahmed, Danielle, Marlon. It's the same good. And if we can come from that place when we start, I think that is my hope. It'll be better for everybody.
Thank you, panelists. Really inspiring thoughts about how we might envision the future. We've had some great questions pouring in. I'm going to try to summarize. Some of them are like mini essays, so I'm going to try to summarize. We have one here from Jamelia, who is working in an initiative connected to Trinidad and Tobago to strengthen the capacity of Black women, children, and men. And she asks, what advice can you provide for spreading the awareness of vulnerabilities, but also the excellence and vast strengths of our communities, identifying and promoting supportive community resources, and finding tentative speakers from the Black community? So big question, how can we make the work known? I think we can boil it down to that. So if you raise your hand, I'll just call on you and you can go ahead if you'd like to. Go ahead.
I mean, I can start with that one.
Sure.
I think, Joan would probably say the same thing is, start by telling the story. One of the things we do in our agency, obviously everybody wants you to buy this cup or whatever, but I think if you can tell the story of what it means and try to connect with your audience and the people that matters and what is the problem we're trying to solve, how are we trying to move that agenda forward? I think that's the best way. And we live in a space where everything and everyone's accessible now. You reach out on LinkedIn, you reach out on social media, there's no secrets anymore. If you have a mission, vision, and agenda, a story you want to tell, there's a wide audience globally that is there to receive it. You can tell that to everybody. So I think you want to be very intentional about who you're connecting with and think about, the problem that you're solving and be authentic in the stories that you're going to be sharing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anybody else want to pick up on that one? Or I can move on to our next question. Let me do that so we get to as many questions as possible. So this has been an excellent discussion. Yes. I'm wondering about your thoughts on health equity. What do you think is needed for healthcare professionals to increase their understanding of the needs of Black Canadians from a health perspective? Ahmed?
Yeah, challenging one, but I can try and take a stab at it. I'm fortunate through the Black Opportunity Fund to partner with our healthcare task force, which started with just Dr. Atto Sekiotu, and has now expanded to over 40 doctors from across, and healthcare providers and healthcare professionals from across the country. And for them, they're solely focused on this exact topic. And essentially, what they're trying to do is do things such as increasing representation within their own fields. So encouraging more young students to pursue these great careers in healthcare of diverse backgrounds. So when you're receiving patient care, you're receiving it from someone who maybe will better understand your lived experience. So there's one piece of it. And the other piece is maybe just raising awareness and making sure that these initiatives are aware of what they're doing. And a good example is the vaccine right now. There's a lot of mistrust and hesitation among the Black community specifically with regards to taking the vaccine. Now, some of those are very valid and warranted, and maybe others can be addressed through just knowledge sharing. So that's what we're trying to do. And I think through that, you can improve health outcomes for the Black community by that as one example.
Thanks, Ahmed. And Danielle?
And I'll just add in to say that there's been a lot of research in this area on all of the gaps and challenges within, Black outcomes when it comes to our healthcare system. What is needed is leadership. It's not for lack of information, and it's not for lack of the community voicing the ideas, presenting solutions, offering to partner. What's really required are those who are in positions of power and influence to act. And it's not enough to talk about it and to meet about it and to continue to meet while these disparities continue. And so what I would encourage the community to do, which is what we always do, is be very vocal, be very involved. That might involve, and this is the activist in me, campaigns, awareness campaigns, or protests if you need to. But it's not for a lack of information. We just need courageous leaders to step forward and do what they need to do to address anti-Black racism within our healthcare system.
Thank you, Danielle. I'll move on to our next question, coming from Karen, again, saying, great to see you, alum. Karen is saying, if we wanted to support some of the initiatives, how would we go about doing that? So would you like to go around the room and tell the persons tuning in how they could get in touch with you if they wanted to support your initiative? Let's start with Joan.
If you're interested in screen-based media, we're definitely the place to come to. We're at blackscreenoffice.ca, and we're very happy to meet with people one-on-one or talk about initiatives that you might personally have, or just to get more information about what we do.
Thanks. Marlon?
Yes, if you're looking to learn more about 100 Strong Foundation, I would say, start with the website. And then, of course, as I always tell people when talking about networking, find people and reach out to them on LinkedIn. So, I'm inviting you to connect with me if we're not already connected on LinkedIn, and I'll talk to you and share a little bit more about the organization.
Nadine?
The Black Business and Professional Association, you can, again, go to our website, bbpa.org. Email me, president@bbpa.org. Would love to have more help with our Boss Women Entrepreneurship Training Program and the BADES program that I talked about. Whether you're volunteering or mentoring or coaching, it would be great.
Thank you. Ahmed?
Sure, and thank you for that question. And there's two ways that you can support the Black Opportunity Fund. The way that, one way is to make a donation. So by visiting www.blackopportunityfund.ca, and you can make a donation, which is certainly welcome. The second way, which is really exciting as well too, and how myself and many others are involved, is to become a supporter of the organization. And that would involve signing up on the same website address, and then getting involved in many things like the healthcare initiative that we're focused on, like education, like social justice, and then many other verticals that we're looking to impact across the community. So there's no sort of hours requirement. You could help with one event or many, and we'd really encourage you to do that and share it amongst your network as well.
Thanks, Ahmed. And Danielle?
I would say if you're a parent or a guardian looking for employment for your young person, you can visit torontopolice.on.ca/YIPI, YIPI, which stands for Youth and Policing Initiative. There are, with the pandemic right now, the program is on pause, but once everything kind of resumes, we will be back. That program was started in 2006, and it's very much a part of the organization. In terms of So You Think You Can Run, if you are interested in the political engagement and getting involved, by all means, visit the JCA website, which is jcaontario.org, I believe, and under the Advocacy Committee, you'll see a way to get in touch. And we welcome people specifically who have been involved with either mounting a campaign, running a campaign, have been past candidates, and are willing to lend their knowledge, their intimate knowledge on what it takes to be successful when running. We would love to have you. And can I just shout out 100 Strong, because my nephew was in that program, and it's still, like 6 years later, still his absolute favorite program. And also Nadine, I was a volunteer with the BBPA. I sat on the board for about 4 years.
Thank you, Danielle. No, this is a great segue.
Join us again. We'd love to have you back. Join us again. I remember collaboration.
Well, I was going to say the next question addresses exactly this thing. The next question comes from Ramelia. She asks, in your experience, to what degree is networking important to bring about change and impact? Joan.
Sorry, I think networking is everything. Having access is very important. I have to say that over the past several weeks, I've virtually been in Whistler, BC, St. John's, Newfoundland, Manitoba, and I've been looking at screens of faces that look like me. And it's so massively empowering to see that. So now there's a whole new way of having access through these virtual encounters that just like we're having today.
And I would add that it's hypercritical networking, especially for this community. It is, you know, I would say that it's not what you know, it's not even who you know, it's who knows you. You know, I did talk about taking a genuine interest in people, but if you don't have a genuine interest in sharing and letting people know who you are, then it doesn't get us anywhere. So I would say networking, let that be the foundation of the work that you do in this community.
Danielle.
And I would just add that networking is so critical because the work is so interconnected. A lot of the issues that we're all fighting or trying to address connect in such a variety of ways and entry points. And so everyone, you know, has a piece. And how do we come together to bring it all together? You know, there's no one person and there's no one organization that has all of the solutions. And that's intergenerationally, that's, you know, cross-sectorally. We all, like, networking is absolutely key and foundational to the work, because otherwise you're in a silo. And as they say, you know, if you're a leader without, you know, without followers, you're just a person taking a walk. Like you need to be able to have people that follow and people that you work with and cross collaborate, and it's all kind of like a spider's web. You know,
and last quick point, all of that is so right. And last quick point, people do business with who they know, you know, and the opportunities are with who they know. So we want to remember that networking is so important.
And Michelle, you're going to kill me, but I have to come in on the topic of networking and
Okay.
maybe just offer the students and anyone else dialing in something actionable. You know, you're probably going to finish this and hopefully feel inspired to network. It's absolutely critical. I couldn't agree more with our panelists. I do think, though, as you're going down that journey, sending out messages on LinkedIn or emails, don't get discouraged if you don't get a couple replies back or multiple. That's the first thing. The second thing is, for who you do engage with, do yourself a favor and ask them for 2 or 3 other people that you should be connected with, and build your network that way. Something that I stole from Dennis Mitchell, a leader in our community and leader of the Black Opportunity Fund. So just leave you with something actionable there.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. So we are at the end of our time. We have questions that we weren't able to get to. Thank you so much for all the questions that came in. There were some requests for names and contact information for people to speak. So we can send those out to folks afterwards. Thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you, Ahmed, Danielle, Joan, Marlon, and Nadine. Thank you for coming to show off York, to show off LA&PS. We are so proud of you, and we are so happy to hear about the things with which you are engaged. We invite you to join us, our panelists and our guests today, to join us for the next session, which will be called How We Tackled COVID, Discount Car and Truck Rentals, which will be taking place on February 25th between 12 and 1 p.m. Thank you once again. All the best to everyone. Stay safe.